Welcome to College Admissions Toolbox, giving you the edge you need to get into the colleges of your dreams, with your host, Steve Schwartz. That's me.
Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to share some really exciting news with all of you. We've just been featured as the #1 podcast in iTunes New and Noteworthy for K-12 education. This just makes me even more pumped about what we're doing, because it means that this podcast is really working for you guys. And so I'm just going to keep bringing out more great resources for you as a result. In fact, I'm creating a full course, and it's going to focus on helping you write the best college essay possible. You can check it out and sign up at collegeadmissionstoolbox.com/essays.
Today, we're talking with Celest Horton.
All right, Celeste, welcome to College Admissions Toolbox. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Now, you've got an incredible story. You know, you're a mother of four. You have a background in the oil industry, and now you've actually got your own podcast of your own devoted to paying for college. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you made this transition.
Well, I'm still doing the day job, working in technical sales full time, but then this has been a passion of mine on the side because, as you mentioned, I'm the mom of 4 kids, and we've been saving for years to pay for college. But as the cost of education continues to soar, it became very evident that it was time to do some research and really figure things out. And I saw that there was a need amongst my peers for the same bits of information. So that's what inspired me to start the podcast and the business on the side.
Wow, that's really something. Was there some sort of pivotal moment that you saw or experienced personally that led you to see this need and take it to the next level?
Yeah, it definitely was my oldest, who is a senior this year. It was the time, he was a sophomore, and it was just coming, the inevitable date was coming at hand so quickly. And we started investigating and realizing how much we saved versus what it was going to cost. And that was just the pivotal moment that, we were seeing the same struggle and concern with all of our other peers and other families that we knew out in the community. So it was a great opportunity to really help, to try to give back and help others too.
Wow. Was there, you're sitting there, doing the spreadsheet, making out the budgeting and everything, was there a specific line item or a specific calculation that just made you say, enough is enough, someone really needs to do something, and spread the word about some ways to manage the cost?
No, I think it was just the idea. It reminds me a lot of, I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey's as well. And, that the whole idea of common sense and financial literacy. And I think it's tying the whole movement and the whole idea together that, they don't really teach financial literacy in school to kids anymore. So it's important as parents for us to help to try to guide our students and our children to further understand balancing a budget, fully understanding, what things will cost, how much money you may have saved, but then also figuring out common sense. If you can't afford this school, then you probably shouldn't be going there, particularly even what your degree may be. So it's just the overall encompassing, the whole idea of looking at the whole package. It wasn't just one spreadsheet or one line item. It's kind of viewing the whole process. And you can't just let, in my opinion, a 17-year-old drive the bus and pick a school based upon the name brand. That it's a family project that should be worked on together to make sure that it is something that everybody can afford, that we can afford. And so that way, because it not only affects the student that's off at school, but everyone else that's left behind as well.
Sure, absolutely. You've really got to consider the big picture, not just kind of be taken in by the brand alone. You got to consider what's going to make sense for your situation.
Exactly.
And Celeste, what we really love to hear on College Admissions Toolbox are stories. So could you take us to the moment in time of the worst college admissions moment you've seen or experienced, and tell us the story behind it?
I think it would be some of the people that I've interviewed on the podcast in the past, where they too just didn't have the financial literacy background, and they were just, not paying attention while they were going to school and just kept blindly signing their different the student loan applications and collecting those checks, and then not even be mindful of what they were spending at that point. And then the fact that they would graduate with an obscene amount of student loan debt that made it so much challenging for them once they even got out. So that, to me, those are some of the worst college admissions in terms of financing stories that I've heard. and they break my heart. And that's part of what has made me continue to want to pursue this avenue to help people figure out how to do it in a good, financially smart way.
Sure. Is there one particular story you've heard where we could, maybe learn some lessons from the experience of that individual?
Well, and that's exactly what the individual had said. It was a friend of mine, and he graduated. I can't remember the amount of debt that he graduated with, but it was pretty substantial. And he just kept signing his student loan promissory notes and collecting them. And now he's living very meekly now with his what he's pursuing as far as his career goals, because he's trying to live off very little to be able to pay off all of that debt so that he can do more things. But had he had those lessons, ahead of time, the idea of how to better budget money, live within a budget, understand, living within your means, he would have been able to graduate with a more, without debt potentially. And then he would have been able to jump right in it and accomplish. In fact, he wants to become an entrepreneur, and he's on his way to do that. But the student loan debt that's hanging on him, which I am pretty sure it was in excess of $50,000, has really limited his ability to jump in full force to become an entrepreneur. Oh,
wow. So if you could go talk to him before he signed that loan, back when he was, back in high school or right before he was starting college, what advice would you give him specifically to help him avoid making that mistake and going down that path?
Just to really work an understanding. Again, it's sad that it does boil back to that financial literacy, helping him understand, investigate different costs of various schools. If you don't have the money to cash flow it, and I don't mean it necessarily all has to be directly from cash, but scholarships, financial aid, but working together that you can make those ends meet, that maybe you point yourself in a different direction or in a different path to make sure that you can graduate with your degree, in a way that's not going to cripple you down the road. I mean, there's so many instances of students being boomerang children nowadays where they have so much debt, or they're saddled with so much debt, that even with their degrees, and then again, it goes to even the choice of their degrees, they may have a difficulty finding a job on the back end, that they end up having to move home with their parents again after college to just try to help make ends meet. Because oftentimes that student loan debt can be payments of an excess of $1,000 a month, which is pretty close to a mortgage payment, or rent. So they're stuck at home. So it's just more, and that's my goal, is to reach. I know you're targeting more parents of juniors and seniors. I'm trying to target parents that are younger, 8th grade to about 11th grade, because it starts early with really understanding that there's options and there's choices and research, and it takes a lot on. It's important for the parents to be helping educate their students with different exercises and things to understand the importance of balancing a budget. I know I always go back to that, but you only have a certain amount of money, and it's important to be able to live within those means, because alone, it's not your money. You're borrowing it from somebody else, and you inevitably have to pay it back. So for my kids, I don't want them to be saddled with that, and I want them to be able to succeed once they graduate. And I also want them to, of course, find their passion and be happy with what they do once they graduate. And so it just all ties it up into a pretty bow. If they can find a job and a career that they really enjoy, but at the same time, they won't be stuck with that debt, but they'll be able to really proceed into their adulthood in a easier manner, so to speak.
Absolutely, Celeste. So many valuable nuggets there. Those $1,000 a month payments can really make a dent if you do your homework beforehand and get that financial literacy, learn those skills early. It can really do a lot to put you on the right path when it comes to paying for college. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Now I want to move on a little bit, to talk about, a moment of insight or a flash of inspiration, a light bulb moment, if you will, that you've seen or experienced, that aha moment, and share with us the steps that led to it.
The aha moment in terms of
a moment of inspiration, a story that led someone on the path to success.
I've gotten a lot of feedback from some various listeners and families that have enjoyed the podcast and have sent me great emails of inspiration. But a lot of it, has been for them just the awareness of understanding, right now, bless their hearts, the guidance counselors at the high schools, they're overbooked. They have so many students that they are responsible for. I know in my son's graduating class, there's 636 students. So they are very much overwhelmed that it's very difficult for this information to get passed down to them to know what they really need. So it's been a big aha moment for me to feel that I'm really giving back and these parents are appreciating this information, not only in terms of college admissions, college prep, but financial literacy, just overall ideas on the parenting side to really help get their students through the course of graduating from high school and off to college in towards success. So that was a big aha moment for me, was the feedback that I've gotten from various listeners, for sure.
No, absolutely. It's just so important to have that financial literacy. So many students, especially those who are not, future econ majors, they just don't have a clue about it, and they don't even know where to start, in terms of learning that information if it's not being taught in a middle school, high school level. So, right. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to move now into the lightning round, Celeste, where I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You give me some rapid fire responses. Are you ready?
Sure.
Great. All right. What's your number one piece of advice for the college admissions process?
Just don't delay. Get started. I know that it's hard, as you would find. You see a lot of parents try to put it off until that junior or senior year, but it's of course start wherever you are. So even if you are a junior or senior, it's not too late, but the earlier you can start, the better, for sure. Definitely.
Couldn't agree more. Can you share with us one habit that you believe contributes to success?
Organization, for sure. Google Suite is awesome. It's something that us parents need to definitely educate ourselves a little bit more about. It ties in a calendar, documents, not Excel, but spreadsheets and presentations that can be shared between yourself and your children, and you can align calendars, but it's just a way to really help you all stay on the same page to get the entire process done and in an organized manner.
And align budgets too, right?
Exactly, yes.
Totally. We'll link to that in the show notes. Thank you. What's one other online resource you absolutely love? Maybe something devoted to admissions or financial literacy in particular?
Both College Data and College Navigator. Those are two great tools to really investigate various colleges or universities for their prices and, what they cost and the basic demographics that they may have in their overall student body. Another great one for the financial side of it is costoflearning.com, where you can compare the net price of various colleges or universities side by side. I love that one. We've been using it tons in this household. So a lot of great resources.
No, great. We're definitely going to link to those. What's one book that you believe no college applicant should be without?
I do. I really enjoy the Fisk's Guide to College, and I might even be saying the title wrong, but it fully outlines and gives a great summary of all the major colleges and universities, and it's very similar to what you would find online, in my opinion, compared to the College Navigator and the College Data. But it allows you to just kind of flip it on hand and really read a little bit more details about any colleges that you might be interested in. And it was really helpful. Again, it was a helpful tool that we used here in this household, so I enjoyed that as well.
No, absolutely. I recommend that one to all of my students, and everyone loves that one. It's good to have it in book form too. So definitely mention that one. Thanks. So what are you working on these days? What are you looking forward to?
Just continuing the podcast. We get lots of great people that have some great information to share with the listeners out there, with the parents. Also working on a course, just a video module course that I call Debt Free Degree 101 that'll just be available to parents of the same different demographic to just kind of point them in the right direction with the tools that they might need to start out the process. But when they're getting started in the whole college admissions, college prep, but mostly when it comes to paying for college in a sensible manner.
No, absolutely. I'm excited to hear that you're working on video. It's definitely something exciting. And so we'll definitely be, keeping everyone posted about that when you release it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Any parting thoughts before you go? Any final words of wisdom?
Well, just thank you so much for having me. And yes, any parents out there, just don't be afraid to start right where you are, and knowledge is power. Just make sure that you educate yourself as much as possible. There's so many free resources out there, such as this podcast and others, and just make sure that you take advantage of that, because it'll just help make the process that much smoother, for sure.
No, absolutely. So Celeste, we'll be listening to your podcast, How to Pay for College HQ. We'll be linking to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And before you go, where can folks find you online?
Yes, my website is howtopayforcollegehq.com, and I'm also on Facebook, on Google Plus, and Twitter, and all of those links can be found on my website as well. But again, it's howtopayforcollegehq.com.
Great. Thanks, Celeste. Take care.
Perfect. Thank you.
When I first started working on my applications, I felt like I was competing with everyone at my school. There was this sense that top colleges would only take a few kids from each high school, and it made people afraid to help each other. So I went online and looked at message boards and forums to try and get help from others who were also going through the process. But I felt like a lot of them just had this kind of negative vibe. Everyone's accomplishments seemed more impressive than mine, and the people who posted were just kind of full of themselves. To be honest, it ended up making me feel bad about my chances, like I didn't have a shot at getting into my reach schools. So over the past few years, I've been working to try and change this. I've built an online forum where people actually help each other instead of putting each other down. And you can get advice from experts who've helped thousands of students get into top colleges. So check it out and feel free to post any questions you have at collegeadmissionstoolbox.com/forum. Thanks for listening to College Admissions Toolbox. Head over to www.collegeadmissionstoolbox.com to get more free tools and resources that will help you get into the colleges of your dreams.